voice their opinion, at least give their opinion. Now, if they're the person that's trying to draw attention to themselves, I'll give you the tools in a minute to show how to shut that down, but you let the team do that. The team will actually fix that. Some people perceive that their voice is used when they get to teach others. You know, those are the ones we want to, on a Friday morning huddle, we want them to hold a little clinic on how to do certain things, right? Because they love teaching other people and they get to use their voice. And so that's really important. The third thing, so you got to look for ways to attach meaning, look for ways to let people use their voice. And the third is really important, psychological safety. Now, this is probably the biggest thing that a leader can do, is to provide psychological safety. Now look, if people do not feel safe, they will not voice their opinion. They're going to be made to feel dumb. Psychological safety means that what's said and done here is not going to bruise your ego. It's not going to dent your self-esteem. It's not going to make you think less of yourself for trying to make a contribution. It's really important. Now, I spend a lot of time wandering around to garages listening for psychological safety. You can actually hear it. And here's how you tell. When I wander into a crew room and I hear guys and gals talking about, hey, how'd your kid do at the baseball game last night? You know, I heard your wife was in the hospital. Is she doing okay? I heard your parents in the hospital. You know, hey, I solved a thorny problem down the road last night. Anybody want to know how to do this? I figured something out, you know. Or, hey, has anybody seen this kind of problem? When I hear those kinds of conversations among a crew member, I think that's pretty safe. That's a pretty safe environment, right? When I hear a lot of sarcasm, I know that that's not a psychologically safe environment. Now, we oftentimes dismiss it as poking at each other, but here's what happens. When my wife and I are married now, coming up on 43 years in April, when we were first married, we both came from homes that used an extensive amount of sarcasm to send messages, right? Because what is it about sarcasm? It always has two messages. There's a double meaning in sarcasm all the time. There's the meaning of the words, and then there's the meaning of the tone, right? And we did not want our little kids are confused. A little kid can't sort out. Which do I believe? You can read it in their faces. Which do I believe, the words or the tone? And so we never wanted our kids to be confused on the message. But guess what? Adults are the same way. We just mask it better. We're always confused. Am I going to believe the words that I heard, or am I going to believe the tone? And if I believe the tone, I don't think I want to speak up again, right? That's not a safe place. When sarcasm is in use, walls are up, and the people that you need most to use their voice aren't using their voice. The one opinion that could probably unlock a lot of things for you is being held back because that person doesn't feel safe. And so psychological safety is really, really important, and that is probably the greatest gift you give to your team, where everybody feels safe, no matter how off the wall their thoughts are. They get to make a contribution to the team, and they feel safe doing it. Over time, those observations and those opinions will get better and better. They'll get more dialed in. But you're teaching people this is a safe place. If you allow a lot of sarcasm and a lot of walls to be up as a leader, you're going to hurt yourself as a team. You really won't get psychological safety. And when there's no safety, there's no trust. No safety, no trust. If I don't trust you, I don't feel safe around you. If I feel safe around you, even though we don't think alike, act alike, have the same opinions, but if I feel safe around you, I'll trust you. And this happens to be one of the biggest things that erode trust, and we never really pay attention to it. So it's really, really important. And the last thing, the last condition is what we call job crafting. What psychologists call job crafting. Now look, here's how this plays out. In our world, this is called ownership. Right? I make the job my own. One of the things that I loved about the old core world, I wasn't in the core world then, but I have have stolen this idea from the core world is that years ago, a core technician, when he finished a job and worked at the NID, would sign the inside of the NID, right? Because look, you relate to that job a whole lot differently when you see your name on it than you do when you think, oh, this is job number 3 today, close the lid and go, I'm done. Well, let's see how fast did I get this done, right? You relate far differently when you see your name on it. Now, I'm trying to drive that behavior in the prem world because I want people, it's not like we can't tell who was there. We can tell, we got all the systems in the world. We know exactly who was there last. That's not the issue. The issue is getting them to relate to their work. Because when they relate to their work, they own their work. And when there's ownership, they feel like their imprimatur is on the job. Their imprints is all over the job, or all over the job, right? That's job crafting. So when you create ways for them to own something in the job, and I know workflow engine, the cry is workflow engine's taking away our ability to think, well, that's hogwash. My response to that is, we see 23 million transactions a year in workflow engine. We have the best big data engine to tell us what processes and what procedures yield certain outcomes. Now, I'm okay if you don't want to use workflow engine, just bring me 23 million of your own transactions to show me your way's better and we'll change it, right? I'm fine with that. But look, there's still ways for them to own the job. And hopefully when the professor comes out, they'll, and it makes those automatic adjustments for people, they'll be able to own the job. But when you as the leader create meaning, when you give people voice, when you provide psychological safety, and then you work to give ownership to people, you're going to get trust and collaboration, which is exactly what you want. You're going to have high speed, things getting done. You'll be able to move the needle much faster than you will otherwise. Questions? Yeah.
With everything that's going on in our organization today, what keeps you up at night? What worries you about the direction, or what are you inspired about the direction of the organization?
It's probably the same thing for the last 4 years. Next week will be 4 years I've been in this position. I was sent here to turn the business around. I spend maybe 10 minutes a week, maybe 10 minutes a week. Maybe in a good week, 15 minutes, but no more than 10 generally, looking at numbers. I really don't. I don't look at a lot of numbers. I spend, 50 some odd hours a week worrying about what are we doing, right? Bill Walsh, in his book that he wrote in like 2009 on leadership, the point of the book is this: be the best you can be in your role, and the score takes care of itself, right? The score takes care of itself. Our score, goes up and down in any given month, and we have had way too many leaders in the business who have knee-jerk reactions to the month-to-month scores. And I look over the long haul at the trajectory we've had in our business now, and I haven't worried about numbers. My mid-year reviews go something like this: what are you most proud of, and what would you like to do over on, right? Because I want to know the story. The number should only lead us to ask the next question, and that is, how did you get there? What have you been doing, right? It's the art of the question that's going to help us change. Did you know this name here? Do you know that name? He's actually the guy that started this company. Okay. Mr. Toyoda is the guy that started Toyota Motor Corporation. Okay. His management philosophy was you really didn't understand the art of the issue until you'd ask 5 whys, 5 levels of question, right? we are oftentimes way too impatient trying to get to the answer. And when you read multipliers, you'll find out that the real art of leadership is to ask the question. I tell people this: I may not be worth a crap at anything, but in 41 years, I've gotten really, really good at one thing. Really good at one thing. And that is not owning other people's problems. Okay? When you give an answer, instead of asking a question, who owns the problem? One of my directors who runs outstate Illinois and southern Indiana, I can tell the story because he tells the story on himself, and he's given me permission to tell this story. His first couple of weeks on the job, he calls me. I have to be in the office. He calls me and he's wanting to know what to do. He's got a thorny personnel issue. And I said, well, Jerry, let me ask you this. I asked him a question, right? So he asked me another question. I answered his question with another question. And about 10 questions into the conversation, Jerry finally said, I got this. I know what to do. I got this. I said, great. Now look, is it that I could have done it better than him? Maybe. Maybe I would have made a different decision, but I'd have made a different decision on fewer of the facts for sure. He was closer to it. But the most important thing is who was going to own the decision? Jerry was going to own the decision. If I give him the answers, I own the problem. I don't ever give answers. I only ask questions. Because if you answer the question, you own the problem. That's one of the ways that you drive ownership, is you don't give answers. You ask questions. And so when you've learned to just keep being patient with questions and asking the questions, you can lead people, quite honestly, you can lead them exactly where you need them to be. The hard work is figuring out what the next question is.
Right.
And we're oftentimes driven by the clock. The clock's ticking, I gotta get this guy off the clock, I gotta get him on to the next job, whatever the case may be. Just sit in the silence. Just be willing to sit in silence. We're very uncomfortable with silence. And it's oftentimes the most powerful tool we have. Ask the question and just wait. Ask the next question and wait. And after a while, what you'll find is that people will stop asking you so many questions. Because what they'll say is, you know what? He's just going to ask me a question. Let me go see if I can figure this one out by myself. That's exactly the behavior you drive when you do that. I rarely get a phone call from one of my directors. Rarely get a phone call asking me what we're going to do or what they should do. I can't remember when the last time was I got one of those phone calls. Because they all know I'm going to ask them questions. And you know what? Our organization hums because they go figure it out. Now I'm trying to drive that behavior down through area managers. I mean, this is a new concept for a lot of our area managers. The mentoring circle I was just with yesterday over in South Bend, they all realized they're just far too impatient and they're smart enough. Guess what? This is the hazard of being a first line. How many of you were technicians before you became a manager?
Well, I wasn't a tech, but I did work.
Yeah. Look, the business world hasn't yet learned what the sports world has known for a long time. And that is superstars make horrible coaches. We have a whole bunch of managers in IDFS that got to be promoted to management because they were really damn good techs. But guess what? You, in any sport, pick a sport, it's rare. In fact, you really have to think hard to find a superstar that made a good coach. You won't be able to find them. Because superstars expect everybody else to play at their level. And guess what? Nobody can play at their level. That's why they were picking superstars. But the ones who became the best coaches were solid players. Great players, not superstars, solid players. Who became good students of the game and good students of people. You look at Phil Jackson, he was the number 5, number 6 guy on the Knicks. I remember when, when Jackson played, I played basketball at Florida State in the days that our shorts were so short that cheerleaders are wearing them today, you know. And Phil Jackson played for the Knicks, you know, and his hair was flying everywhere, right? I remember Pat Riley